The summer sun beat down on Brooklyn Heights like a giant, relentless furnace. The concrete sidewalks radiated heat in shimmering waves, and even the pigeons seemed too tired to fly. In the middle of this urban oven, a film crew had taken over several blocks to shoot the latest installment of the John Wick franchise. Trucks full of cameras and lighting equipment lined the streets. Cables snaked across the asphalt like sleepy serpents. Extras in dark suits and tactical gear stood around sipping water and fanning themselves with their scripts. The atmosphere was hot, tired, but professional. Everyone knew their job, and everyone knew that the heart of this production, both on screen and off, was a man who had become a global icon of quiet intensity: Keanu Reeves. Keanu stood near the craft services table, a paper cup of iced coffee in his hand. He wore a simple black t-shirt and dark jeans, his hair slightly disheveled from the morning's action scenes. Despite the heat, he looked calm and centered, a quality that had made him famous both as an actor and as a genuinely good human being. But today, his attention wasn't on the cameras or the stunt choreography. It was on a four-legged co-star. Buddy was a muscular pit bull with a brindle coat and eyes that seemed to understand human emotions better than most humans. The dog had been cast in the film to play a role that required loyalty, courage, and a gentle soul hidden beneath a tough exterior, much like the character Keanu played. The two had already spent several days together, and a bond was forming. The director, a grizzled veteran with a bullhorn permanently attached to his hand, climbed onto a platform and shouted, "That's a wrap for this scene, folks. We'll take a 1-hour lunch break. Meet back here at 1 o'clock sharp." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the crew. Cameras were covered, lenses capped, and the hum of activity shifted from shooting to eating. Groups formed around the catering truck, discussing where to grab the best sandwich or whether the iced coffee was actually drinkable. "Hey, Keanu," called one of the stunt coordinators. "A bunch of us are heading to that new deli on Atlantic Avenue. Their pastrami is legendary. You coming?" Keanu smiled, that warm, almost shy smile that fans around the world adored. But his eyes drifted to Buddy, who was lying on a cooling mat nearby, tongue lolling out, panting heavily. The dog's sides rose and fell rapidly. The heat was clearly affecting him. "You guys go ahead," Keanu said. "I think I'll take Buddy for a walk. He needs to cool down and stretch his legs." The dog handler, a lanky man with a clipboard and a permanent worried expression, stepped forward. "Mr. Reeves, you really don't have to do that. It's my job. I can take him." Keanu held up a hand, his expression earnest. "I'd like to, really. It'll help me bond with him for the upcoming scenes. And honestly, I've always wondered what it feels like to own a dog, even if it's just for an hour." The handler hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but please be careful. Buddy is a sweetheart, but he's strong, and he can be protective if he feels threatened." Keanu knelt down, looking Buddy directly in the eyes. "What do you say, Buddy? You want to go explore the neighborhood with me?" Buddy's tail began to wag, a slow, heavy thumping against the cooling mat. That was all the confirmation Keanu needed. Within minutes, the leash was clipped, a collapsible water bowl was tucked into Keanu's jacket pocket, and the unlikely pair, a Hollywood superstar and a pit bull, set off into the bustling streets of Brooklyn Heights. Part 2. The biker bar and a surprising welcome. The streets were alive with the chaos of a New York summer afternoon. Food carts sizzled on corners, filling the air with the smell of grilled onions and hot dogs. Kids on skateboards weaved through pedestrians. Couples walked hand in hand, oblivious to the fact that one of the world's biggest movie stars was passing just a few feet away. Keanu kept his head down, not out of fear but out of a desire to give Buddy his full attention. The dog was clearly enjoying the walk, sniffing every lamppost and fire hydrant with the enthusiasm of a canine on a grand adventure. But Buddy was also panting heavily. The heat was brutal, and Keanu knew the dog needed water soon. He scanned the storefronts for a public fountain or a cafe with outdoor seating that might offer a bowl of water. That's when he saw it. A squat, weathered building with a faded sign that read, "Iron and Ash." The letters were chipped, and the overall look was decades old. Parked outside was a row of gleaming motorcycles, Harleys, mostly, with custom paint jobs and chrome that reflected the sun like mirrors. The rumble of engines, even when idling, filled the air with a low, aggressive growl. Keanu recognized the type immediately. This was a biker bar, not the friendly leather jacket and grin kind, but the kind that made locals cross the street to avoid eye contact. But there, almost hidden between two of the motorcycles, stood a public drinking fountain. An old one with a push button and a small stream of cool water. "Looks like we got lucky, buddy," Keanu murmured, guiding the dog toward the fountain. He pulled out the collapsible silicone bowl, expanded it, and filled it with water. Buddy lapped eagerly, his tail wagging again. Keanu smiled and looked around while the dog drank. To his surprise, the bikers coming and going from the bar weren't all hostile. A burly man with a thick beard and tattoos covering both arms walked past and actually stopped. He looked at Buddy, then at Keanu. "Nice pit bull you got there," the man said, his voice gravelly but not unfriendly. "People always judge him wrong, you know? Kinda like us bikers. Loyal to a fault, both of 'em, if you treat 'em right." Keanu nodded, genuinely appreciating the observation. "You're right about that. There's often more than meets the eye." The biker grinned, revealing a gold tooth. "You take care of that dog, brother." Then a waitress emerged from the bar, wiping her hands on a slightly stained apron. Her name tag read Nessa. She looked tired, but her face lit up when she saw Buddy. "Oh, what a handsome boy," she exclaimed, kneeling down to let the dog sniff her hand. Buddy responded with a gentle lick, and Nessa laughed. "He's kinder than half the men in there," she whispered conspiratorially to Keanu. Keanu chuckled. "Thanks for the warm welcome." But as he was about to leave, he heard raised voices. He turned to see a group of 5 bikers confronting Nessa. Their postures were aggressive, their faces twisted with anger. One of them, a hulking man with a shaved head and a snarling tiger tattoo on his neck, stepped forward. "We told you yesterday," the bald biker growled. "Your gang's not welcome here no more. After what happened last time, the boss was clear. You're banned." "I'm just doing my job," Nessa replied, her voice trembling but firm. "You need to leave." "Move aside, sweetheart," the biker said, taking another step, "or we'll move you ourselves." Keanu tensed. He wanted to intervene, but he had Buddy with him, and he'd promised the handler to keep the dog safe. Before he could decide what to do, several other bikers, the friendlier ones, emerged from the bar and formed a protective barrier around Nessa. "You heard the lady," one of them said, his voice low and dangerous. "Time for you to go." Recognizing the potential for violence and mindful of Buddy's safety, Keanu quietly led the dog away from the scene. But his instincts were on high alert. Something was brewing in this neighborhood, and he had a feeling he hadn't seen the last of those troublemakers. Part 3. A peaceful cafe and a sudden attack. Several blocks away, the tension of the biker bar faded into the background. Here, tree-lined streets offered shade, and the sound of birdsong replaced the rumble of motorcycles. A quaint cafe with a flower-covered patio came into view. The sign read The Wild Rose, and the outdoor seating area was shaded by a canopy of string lights. "This looks perfect," Keanu said to Buddy. "What do you think? Food? Rest?" Buddy responded by sitting down and refusing to move another step. Message received. Keanu found a table near the back of the patio, tucked away from the main foot traffic. He removed Buddy's leash, then pulled an extra chair close to his own and patted the seat. "Come on up, boy. You've earned a rest." With surprising grace, Buddy hopped onto the chair, curled up, and let out a contented sigh. A few nearby patrons smiled and whispered among themselves, not because they recognized Keanu, but because the sight of a pit bull sitting politely on a chair was simply adorable. A waitress named Maggie approached, her name tag bright and cheerful. "Good afternoon. Oh my goodness, what a handsome dog. Is it okay that he's on the chair?" "He's very well behaved," Keanu assured her. "I'll have a coffee and a steak sandwich. And could I get an extra portion of unsalted steak for my friend here?" Maggie winked at Buddy. "Coming right up, distinguished gentleman." While waiting, Keanu pulled out his script and began reviewing his lines for the afternoon scenes. Buddy dozed beside him, occasionally opening one eye to check that his human companion was still there. It was peaceful, normal, almost idyllic. Then the peace shattered. A heavy boot stepped onto the patio floor with a thud. Keanu looked up to see a large man in a leather vest, the same bald biker from the bar confrontation, walking past their table. His face was twisted in a sneer. "Filthy animal," the biker muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sittin' at the table like he's people." Before Keanu could react, the man's boot lashed out and connected with Buddy's side. The dog yelped a sharp, painful cry that turned into defensive barking. Buddy jumped down from the chair, teeth bared, hackles raised. The peaceful patio became a scene of chaos. Keanu was on his feet instantly, his chair scraping loudly against the stone floor. His body was coiled with anger. His eyes blazed. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The biker didn't back down. He spat on the ground. "Control your beast, or I'll do it for you." Keanu placed a gentle but firm hand on Buddy's back, calming the dog through touch alone. "Buddy only reacts to threats. You provoked him. He's never hurt anyone unless they hurt him first." The biker sneered. "Coward dog, coward owner." For a split second, Keanu's famous composure slipped. His hand shot out and grabbed the front of the biker's vest. The crowd gasped. Maggie, who had been walking toward them with their food, froze mid-step. But Keanu caught himself. He released the vest, took a deep breath, and stepped back. Violence would not solve this. He was aware of the watching eyes, of his responsibility to Buddy, of the fact that he was a public figure. The biker, sensing Keanu's restraint, leaned in and whispered, "You'll pay for this, both of you." Then he turned and walked away, his heavy boots thudding against the patio. As he retreated, Keanu's actor's eye caught details he'd missed before. The vest bore an insignia, a snarling tiger with extended claws. The same insignia he'd seen on the troublemakers at Iron and Ash. This wasn't random. This was connected. Part 4, the poisoning. Keanu knelt down to check Buddy for injuries. The dog was shaking, but there were no visible cuts or bruises. Keanu let out a sigh of relief. Maggie rushed over, her face pale. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Those bikers have been harassing our customers for weeks, but this is the first time one of them has gone after an animal. Are you both okay?" "We're fine," Keanu said, though his voice was tight. "Thank you." He tried to shake off the incident and enjoy his meal. Buddy, too, seemed to recover quickly, especially when the unsalted steak arrived. The dog ate with enthusiasm, and Keanu allowed himself to relax, just a little. When the meal was over, Keanu glanced at his watch. Their break was nearly over. "Time to head back, Buddy," he said. "But first I need to use the restroom. Will you wait here for me?" Buddy tilted his head as if considering the question, then settled back onto his chair. Keanu smiled and secured the dog's leash to the table leg. He caught Maggie's eye. "Can you keep an eye on him for a moment? I'll be right back." "Of course," Maggie said. "No problem at all." Keanu walked inside the cafe, weaving through tables to the back where the restrooms were located. To his annoyance, there was a short line. He considered going back outside but decided it would be faster to just wait. He couldn't have been gone more than 10 minutes. But when he stepped back onto the patio, his heart nearly stopped. Buddy was alone at the table. Maggie was nowhere in sight, and the dog was in obvious distress. He was choking, his body heaving, his eyes wide with panic. Keanu ran. He reached the dog's side just as Buddy let out a strangled cough. "Water!" Keanu shouted. "I need water." A young waitress named Lila rushed over with a bottle. With practiced care, Keanu held Buddy's head up and poured water slowly into his mouth. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a final heave, Buddy swallowed. The immediate choking crisis passed, but the dog still looked dazed and weak. Maggie appeared out of breath. "I'm so sorry. The kitchen needed me urgently, but I asked Lila to watch him." Lila was trembling. "There was a man here," she said. "He seemed friendly. He fed the dog a sausage. I thought it was okay." Keanu's blood turned to ice. "What did this man look like?" Lila described him. Bearded, chubby cheeks, a mohawk, leather gloves, and a vest with a tiger claw insignia. The same biker, the one who had kicked Buddy. He hadn't just threatened them. He had come back and deliberately fed the dog something dangerous. "Is there a vet nearby?" Keanu asked, his voice urgent. Maggie pointed down the street. 3 blocks that way. You can't miss it." Keanu stood up to leave, but before he could take a step, Buddy suddenly collapsed. His legs gave out, and he hit the patio floor with a heavy thud. His tail went limp. His eyes became unfocused. Whimpers escaped his throat, weak, pitiful sounds that tore at Keanu's heart. Without hesitation, Keanu scooped the 60-pound pit bull into his arms. Adrenaline gave him strength. He thanked the waitresses with a nod and then ran. Part 5: The Race Against Time. Keanu ran through the streets of Brooklyn Heights like a man possessed. Pedestrians jumped out of his way. A delivery guy on a bicycle nearly crashed into a lamppost as he swerved to avoid the sprinting actor and the limp dog in his arms. Sweat poured down Keanu's face. His muscles burned. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Buddy's breathing was shallow, and his whimpers were getting quieter, a sign that time was running out. Finally, the clinic appeared. A white building with a blue cross sign. Keanu burst through the doors, his voice hoarse. "Please, I need help. My dog has been poisoned." The reception area erupted into action. A veterinarian named Dr. Harper, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and steady hands, took charge. "Bring him this way. Put him on the table." Keanu gently laid Buddy on the cold metal surface. The dog's eyes fluttered, and for a moment, Keanu feared the worst. But Dr. Harper was already working, checking vitals, drawing blood, barking orders at her nurses. "What happened?" she asked. Keanu explained everything. The biker, the kick, the sausage, the collapse. Dr. Harper's face grew grave. "His symptoms are consistent with poisoning, likely drug-related. We're going to run blood tests to identify the substance and administer activated charcoal to neutralize it. I'll also start 4 fluids to flush his system." "Please," Keanu said, his voice cracking. "Please save him." The medical team worked quickly. Keanu was ushered into the waiting room, where the minutes stretched into hours. He called the film director, explained the situation, and was relieved when the director said, "Don't worry about the shoot. Take care of Buddy. We'll reschedule." He also called the dog handler, who arrived within 20 minutes, looking just as scared as Keanu felt. And then Keanu waited. Part 6: Justice, John Wick style. After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Harper emerged. Her face was serious but not grim. "Buddy is stable," she said. "The blood tests showed a combination of a powerful narcotic and rat poison. It was a deliberate attempt to kill him, but we caught it in time. He's going to be okay." Keanu felt a wave of relief so intense that his knees went weak. "Can I see him?" "In a few minutes, Dr. Harper said. "He's resting. But before you go in, I should tell you he'll need to stay here for observation for 24 hours. And when you take him home, he'll need medication and a special diet." "Whatever he needs," Keanu said. He visited Buddy briefly, whispering kind words and promising to come back first thing in the morning. Then he stepped outside, and a cold anger settled over him. The biker who had kicked Buddy, who had poisoned him, was still out there, and Keanu knew exactly where to find him. He walked back toward Iron and Ash, but this time he didn't go alone. He called his friend, Sheriff Hank Morrison, a lawman he had met years ago on a film location and who had become a trusted ally. "Hank," Keanu said when the call connected, "I need your help. There's a group of bikers in Brooklyn Heights who assaulted a dog and tried to poison him. They're at a bar called Iron and Ash. I'm pretty sure they're also dealing drugs. The poison they used came from a stash." "Don't do anything stupid," Hank said. "Stay back. Let us handle it." "I'm not going inside," Keanu assured him. "But I'll be watching." Within 20 minutes, multiple police cars arrived at the bar, silently, tactically. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. The element of surprise was total. The bikers inside never saw it coming. Keanu watched from across the street as the raid unfolded. Through the windows, he saw tables overturned, bikers handcuffed, and officers emerging with bags of evidence. The cache of illegal substances was significant enough for major trafficking charges. And then came the moment Keanu had been waiting for. The bald biker, the one who had kicked Buddy, was being led out in handcuffs. He struggled against the officers, shouting obscenities. And then he saw Keanu. Their eyes locked, the biker's face contorted with rage and disbelief. He finally understood. The quiet man with the dog was not just anyone. He was someone with connections, with power, and with a fierce sense of justice. Keanu walked toward him, stopping just a few feet away. His voice was low, calm, and cold, the voice of John Wick himself. "You know," Keanu said, "there's a line I remember from a movie. You don't mess with a man's dog. This isn't a movie. This is real life, and actions have real consequences." The biker spat. "I hope that dog dies." Keanu's expression didn't change. "He's alive, and now you'll have plenty of time to think about why hurting an innocent animal seemed like a good idea." He turned and walked away, never looking back, even as the biker screamed curses behind him. Part 7: Aftermath and a New Beginning. The local news that evening led with the story. Biker gang arrested in Brooklyn Heights raid, multiple charges including animal cruelty. The report mentioned that detectives had found dog fur on one suspect's boots, confirming the assault. The bar, Iron and Ash, was closed indefinitely, and its owner was under investigation. Not once was Keanu's name mentioned. Sheriff Hank had kept his promise of discretion. The next morning, Keanu arrived at the veterinary clinic before sunrise. Dr. Harper met him with a smile. "Buddy had a good night. He's eating, he's wagging his tail, and he's ready to go home." When Keanu entered the recovery room, Buddy lifted his head and thumped his tail against the bed. It was a weak thump, but it was full of love. Keanu knelt down and scratched behind the dog's ears. "Hey, Buddy," he said softly. "We got them. The bad guys are gone. You're safe." Buddy licked his hand. Later that day, Keanu returned to the film set with Buddy by his side. The crew cheered. The director shook Keanu's hand and said, "I heard what you did. That was damn brave." But Keanu just shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do for a friend." The bond between them was now unbreakable. And when the cameras rolled for the next scene, the performance was electric. Every look, every gesture, every word between John Wick and his canine companion was filled with a truth that no script could have written. Because it was real. Epilogue: What the story teaches us. This tale is a powerful reminder that cruelty has consequences. Whether you're a ruthless biker or just someone who thinks it's funny to hurt an innocent creature, the world has a way of balancing the scales. Sometimes that balance comes in the form of a sheriff's raid. Sometimes it comes in the form of a quiet, determined man who refuses to let evil win. And sometimes it comes in the form of a dog, loyal, forgiving, and full of love, who reminds us what truly matters. Keanu Reeves walked away from that day with a deeper appreciation for his four-legged co-star, a renewed faith in justice, and a story that would be told for years to come. The bikers went to prison. Buddy went on to finish filming, became a minor celebrity in his own right, and was eventually adopted by one of the crew members who had fallen in love with him. And Keanu? He went back to being Keanu, kind, humble, and always ready to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Because as he proved that day in Brooklyn, you never, ever mess with a man's dog. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it the shocking kick that started everything? The desperate race to the vet? The raid on the biker bar? Or Keanu's icy confrontation with the man who hurt Buddy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this unbelievable true-life story of justice and courage, please consider subscribing. These stories take hours to research and write, and your support is what keeps me going. Until next time, remember, be kind to animals. You never know who's watching or what they're capable of.